What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam Palmer. I am your host. This is the Hobby News Daily Morning Minute. Today is Friday, July 11th, and on today's episode of the podcast, we are going to be talking a little bit about the new Donruss design and something that I think I've seen a lot of positive feedback on that PSA recently did with Best Buy. Got one relatively quick story. I don't think I'll dive too much into it. I mean, it's the start of the football season, like I said, for new cards. And we have the Donruss design. The Donruss design, in my opinion, it has been hit or miss the past couple years. There have been ones that I've really liked, and there have been some that I have really hated. And with that, that also means that Optic is going to be a part of that. And I think what this also means is that we're going to start seeing probably next year's Prism design. We're going to see a lot of the designs that kind of shape what football and basketball cards are for the year. I forget off the top of my head if if they use the same design for football and basketball. I think that they do. So this means that this is what the Donruss design is going to be for all the sports. Like I said, I think this one, they really kind of went back to the roots with the overall design. If I'm going to be completely honest, I'm looking at it right now. And in the years past, there's been a lot of different types of shapes. It seems like this one, they're kind of going back to like the basic design. And I think that's a good idea for Donruss. Donruss being one of the pretty basic products in the hobby. I think one of the ones that if you are looking to get into cards, Donruss is definitely a product that I would suggest looking into first. If you're looking into basketball or football or any of Panini's designs. I think over the years we've seen some of the other sports, Donruss being one of the first products that they end up launching. And it was one, honestly, that I was kind of excited for. I thought they were going to be launching a Donruss for WNBA with Caitlin Clark in there. Apparently, those downtowns that we saw were actually just in that random product that they came out with. So this year's Donruss design, it's been announced, it's out. The other piece that we're going to talk about, that's probably going to be the bulk of this episode, is that they are launching a grading submission kit. You can buy them at Best Buy. Best Buy. So it's a partnership with Best Buy. It comes with 4 $25 PSA grading credits, which kind of interesting. I mean, if you're talking, it's $99 and you're getting 4 $25 credits, and then you also get you get 4 Pro PSA Ultra grading stands, pretty cool. 20 Ultra Pro Easy Grip card sleeves, 20 Ultra Pro semi rigid card holders, 4 Ultra Pro PSA card protectors, and a microfiber cloth. Shipping materials, submission box, and submission instructions in there. It is actually something that one of the first times in quite some time, I have seen the reception of this box be pretty good on social media. Usually when you see stuff with grading, it's very I used hit or miss earlier. It's very hot or cold. I don't know. I'm trying to use 2 different examples here. It's very, people either love it or they absolutely hate it. And most of the time, you're seeing both of those reactions from anything that PSA has done, anything that PSA does, anything that any grading company does, mainly PSA because they're the biggest. You see people on both sides of the spectrum hating it and loving it. This one, from what I've seen, a lot of people seem to like it. And it is interesting to me that it's seeming like that they're trying to get the more average collectors into grading cards. I mean, including the credits in there, I think is big because you're essentially buying, which maybe you can only use that for. I'm not sure if you can use them all at the same time. Maybe potentially you have to use them separately. But it is another opportunity where PSA is trying to talk to the average collector, or maybe not even the average collector, honestly, like somebody who is really just starting to get into this, which I think is phenomenal, because I think one of the one of the downsides I think of people getting into sports cards, and it's not people getting in, it's a downside within cards, is that it can be very complicated. I think that there are so many nuances, there are so many different cards, there's so many different companies, there's so many different products, so many different ways to do everything in cards. It is one of the great parts about the hobby, but it's also one of the parts that I feel like can be very difficult if you are trying to get into this industry not as just someone who's buying cards. If you're trying to buy and sell and maybe make this into some sort of side hustle, I wouldn't suggest I would suggest taking it slow if you're doing that, if I'm going to be completely honest, because I think, I think that there are I think that there's a sentiment online that it can be very easy to make money in sports cards, or it can be an easy side hustle that you can turn into a full-time job. And it's like, if you look at the amount of people that have this as a full-time job, compared to other industries, the number is not very high. So that, I think, isn't, no one buying this is necessarily, or maybe they are, maybe this is PSA trying to get more people into the industry that way. They're trying to show them that grading cards is, the currency. I think that's sort of how I would view it, which I would definitely agree with. Like, I would say grading has changed the landscape of the sports card industry over the past, I would even argue over the past few years, like not even just over the past decade as PSA has grown larger, or even since 2020, when we saw that big boom that sports cards had, or has had and has. I think that grading has really become second nature, I think is the term. I don't think that's exactly the term that I want to use, but it has almost become like, if you're into sports cards, you're also into grading cards. And I think that in some senses is good. In some senses, if you are somebody who owns rare cards and owns rare PSA cards, and you don't want a ton of people grading them, or you don't want other people getting the grades that you're grading, I think you're out of luck there. I think we are past that point pretty significantly, especially with modern cards. I just don't think modern cards, if you're buying any modern cards, unless you're getting them graded, buying them raw really doesn't make much sense, because you could buy an 8 or even a 9 in some scenarios, and you're getting a card that is in pretty good condition, and you're getting it for almost the same price. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to that rule, but I think for the most part, you are getting a lot, and that's just where the margins, I think, have gone. Unfortunately, if you are, you're buying and selling and grading and shipping, the margins of buying cards and getting them graded and selling them at a increased value, you really got to be getting 10s. In some scenarios you can get the 9, and the 9 is going to give you it's going to give you maybe a little bit of profit, but it's not going to be enough profit. Like, if you are grading the cards yourself, the amount of time you spent having to wait for the card to get graded, and then also the price of the card once it is graded. If you're looking at an 8, you probably broke even. 9, you maybe made a little bit of money. 10 is where, obviously, that's where the big margins are going to come in. And for PSA, adding stuff like submission box and submission instructions and a microfiber cloth, I would be interested to know how many people end up buying this. I think if you are getting into grading cards, if you don't have the opportunity to go to a show, like for me, all the cards that I'm going to get graded this year are probably going to be dropped off at the National, more than likely. I may make 1 or 2 other trips to get cards graded, but for me, I'm not a huge fan of shipping them out myself. I would rather drop them off. But this will give you the opportunity to, get them shipped, get these cards graded that you're looking to get graded. And I think, like I said, it's a great opportunity for any collector who is, maybe they have cards and they don't know how to get them graded. This is going to be the opportunity you're looking for to understand and learn more about grading cards, more about all of the things that come along with grading cards. So I don't know, it might even be useful for some collectors if they are looking to if they even know how to grade cards, maybe test it out. I think that's the other thing with sports cards. You really got to always be testing. And I think this is just, another opportunity that is going to give collectors, the chance to get cards graded, to learn how to maneuver the system, I guess, is what I would say.